According to Volume 28 of the ILSA Journal of International and Comparative Law, titled Global and U.S. Trends and Patterns in Human Trafficking, a synthesis of the evidence, written by Georgiana Danilova Trainer, at the global and regional levels, the numbers of identified victims reported by partner governments to the U.S. Department of State for Trafficking in Persons, or the TIP report, has grown from about 68,000 in 2016 to about 119,000 in 2019. This is nearly double the victims in 3 years alone. With that data from 2019, assuming this trend has kept steady, you can estimate that nearly 250,000 victims will be reported in 2025. This is just reported victims. Today we will discuss the disgusting world of human trafficking, how it affects people and their families, how common it is, and some resources for those affected, as well as resources for people wanting to raise awareness. Human trafficking cases are growing at an alarming rate, and I am deeply passionate about raising awareness and preventing human trafficking by telling you lots of resources and giving you data about how dangerous and how common it really is. First, we will talk about what human trafficking is and how it occurs. Next, we will discuss the impacts of human trafficking and what the impacts are on people and their families around the world. Then, we will discuss things that you can do to help prevent and spread awareness for human trafficking. And finally, we will discuss the Polaris Project and many other resources you can use. So, what is human trafficking? Why do people do it? And how common is it? So, according to the article Human Trafficking, Impact, Identification, and Intervention, written by Melissa Byrne, it's defined as the act of recruiting, harboring, transporting, providing, or obtaining a person through the use of fraud, force, or coercion for compelled labor or commercial sex acts. As mentioned in the above definition, human trafficking can be utilized for compelled labor, or essentially slavery, and for commercial sex acts. This occupies a majority of the instances of human trafficking, but it can also include stuff like organ harvesting and other minute things. Human trafficking is also growing at an alarming rate and has millions of victims. It has always been an issue globally, but with increasing population rates and traffickers getting access to internet resources to expand their potential reach, it has been growing at an alarming rate. According to Melissa Byrne, human trafficking is the fastest growing industry in the world. It is estimated that 800,000 people are trafficked in the U.S. each year, with 1 million children being exploited and coerced into the commercial sex trade annually. With the industry being this lucrative, it would be no surprise if this number continued to grow. Byrne also writes human trafficking is a serious public health emergency affecting 12 to 30 million people, including more than 5 million children. To put this into perspective, on the higher side of that estimated range, the 30 million, we're looking at a number relative to 10% of the United States population. This is an extremely frightening number to think about. After discussing what human trafficking is and how common it is, next we will discuss some of the horrible effects trafficking has on victims. Human trafficking kills thousands and ruins thousands of families. Human trafficking can destroy people's mental health and give lifelong trauma. Nearly every single victim of human trafficking reports experiencing trauma that lasts for decades and typically affects their ability to live a normal remainder of their life. According to an article written by Kathy Zimmerman in the Brown Journal of World Affairs titled Human Trafficking and Mental Health, where she cites her own study, it states that trafficking survivors commonly report suicidal ideation as one of the more extreme expressions of depression and desperation. In our study of female sex trafficking survivors in Europe, nearly 40% of women stated that they had considered suicide, and one expressed, "The strongest feeling is that of wanting to die. I feel tired of fighting, and I feel alone." Zimmerman also writes, "Many people who emerge from trafficking situations report feelings of shame and guilt. Specifically, survivors may be ashamed of what happened to them and feel guilty for having allowed themselves to fall prey. Trafficking victims are often subject to extreme amounts of physical torture and abuse that can affect them for the rest of their lives. According to the study Stolen Smiles, A summary report on the physical and psychological health consequences of women and adolescents trafficked in Europe, written by Kathy Zimmerman. Over half of women interviewed, was approximately 58%, said that they had been injured at some point while they were trafficked. Among those women, another half of them, 57%, stated that the injury sustained during that time still caused problems for them to that day. Zimmerman's Stolen Smiles also states that 12% reported fractures, sprains, and 8% reported facial injuries. Physical sites of women's injuries spanned their entire bodies and included heads, face, mouth, nose, eyes, back, neck, spine, legs, hands, feet, kidneys, pelvis, abdomen, and the genital area. One woman recalled being beaten so badly that she was hospitalized in the neurosurgical department for brain damage. This is just discussing the victims who survived and were brave enough to share this information. It is hard to find exact numbers of people who have lost their lives while being trafficked. Next, the families of human trafficking victims are also traumatized, as well as threatened and sometimes even harmed. Many traffickers will threaten the victim's family in order to prevent them from giving any information to local law enforcement to take action. These threats are also given to the victims. Zimmerman writes, among the women who reported being threatened, 82% confirmed that there were threats often carried out as promised. Some cases even report children being kidnapped if the victim did not comply with the trafficker's commands. Now that we understand how common, horrible, and deadly human trafficking is, we will take a look into some resources that you can look into to support victims as well as raise awareness. There are currently flaws in preventing trafficking, and here's what you can do to raise awareness, and then we'll also discuss the Polaris Project. Many people who are susceptible to encountering people who are being trafficked, such as people who work in airports or people who work at train stations, and more susceptible to being trafficked themselves, are not properly trained or educated. An alarming amount of people seem to be unaware of action they should take if met with a situation that seemed like human trafficking. According to an article titled Reporting on Human Trafficking Crimes, a National Transportation Survey, author Marissa E. Auguste writes, 1/3 of 41 workers in an airport business said that they knew of no protocol or company handbook that detailed how to report the suspected abuse of a guest. Also, people who work inside healthcare or transportation can learn methods to properly identify tracking and human trafficking and report it. There are a multitude of signs that could suggest someone who is accessing healthcare is either a previous victim or a current victim of human trafficking. The article Human Trafficking, written by the Associate of Women's Health, Obstetric and Neonatal Nurses say, it is important for the nurse to be aware of warning signs, which may include tattoos or branding, unclear history, STIs, ill-fitting clothing, presence of debris in their genital area, and more. For all the healthcare professionals out there, please be hyper aware of your patients as they could be victims or previous victims, and make sure to report anything you find suspicious. These are some more things you can do to prevent human trafficking if you're not a healthcare worker. One of the main things that you can do is to say something. If you see something suspicious at a train station, airport, public place, report it immediately. It is the number one thing that prevents trafficking is outsiders reporting the possibility that there is trafficking going on. Make sure to always say something if you see something. You can also donate to local nonprofits who support victims of human trafficking and spread the word to others who are also encouraged to take action against it and are also encouraged to say something if they see something. Finally, we'll talk about the Polaris Project, which is a national nonprofit dedicating to spreading awareness of human trafficking and teaching those about the statistics and raising money for victims affected. Polaris also operates the National Human Trafficking Hotline, which you can commonly see the number for inside of airport bathrooms. They have built the largest known data set on human trafficking in America. With all that in mind, let's recap what we all have learned about the dangerous and evil world of human trafficking. We talked about what it is, why they do it, and expressed how common it is, And then we talked about the effects that it has not only on the victims, but the victim's family. And we also discussed things that you can do to prevent human trafficking and the Polaris Project. Human trafficking is one of the most terrifying things people of all backgrounds have experienced. Do your part in spreading awareness and doing what you can to prevent it. Don't be a bystander. Say something or do something. Thank you so much.